Okay, everybody. Hello and welcome to the 9th meeting of the Community and Protective Services Committee. I will call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody in council chambers and online. Please check the city website for additional meeting details and information. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenape'wak, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cpsc@london.ca or dial 519-661-2489, extension 2425. I'd like to recognize members of the committee in council or in the chambers today. To my right, Councillor Hadley McAllister. To my right as well, Councillor Peter Cuddy. Other members of the committee, Councillors Jerry Pribble and Councillors Sam Trusso. Visiting members in council chambers today, I have Councillor Susan Stevenson. And online, I have Councillors Elizabeth Pelosa and Councillor Steve Hillier. Okay, I'll look to committee for any disclosures of interest. I see none. Okay, that moves us on to the consent items. I have 4 consents. I have no pull requests, so I'm just going to look to committee for last call for any of these items to be pulled. Okay, I have none. Okay, looking for a motion to move items 2.1 through 2.4. Moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor McAllister. Okay, looking for a speakers list. Councillor McAllister, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Not trying to put the fire department on the spot, but I do have a question for them. So I don't know if we got to shuffle a chair for this.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor. I didn't count that towards your time.
Okay, thank you. Through you, appreciate all the work the fire department does. I did have a very specific question. I'm not sure if it's kind of alluded to in the report, but I didn't specifically see it called out. But I do have questions in terms of fire inspections, in terms of our encampments. If we could have an update on that for the previous year and moving forward, what does that look like?
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to... Okay, I'll go to London Fire Department. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And through the chair, we continue to work closely with CIR and the Encampment Committee with regards to encampments and giving any assistance that we can. We're continually working to update our strategies and the way that we're working with the encampments and following along as everybody else in the city seems to be.
Thank you, Chief Hamer. Please go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, through you. Appreciate that. No, I was just wondering, perhaps, just as this is an opportunity to convey to the public in terms of the process, I'm wondering if the fire department can speak more in terms of, is this something frequency-wise that you do regularly? Is this something on the behest of CIR? Just so if you can lay out in terms of what goes into actually doing the inspection of the encampments, if any information is provided to those residing there, just so they can know how this happens. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll go to Chief Bridge.
Through the chair, we regularly respond to encampment-related fires on a regular basis. We have a reporting process that goes to our internal team to make sure that those are responded to on a timely basis. So those continue to occur across the organization. We continue to respond on a timely basis.
Thank you, Chief. Counselor.
Thank you, and through you. No, I was just wondering more in terms of, I understand the reactive side of this in terms of a call is received, just more in terms of the proactive inspections that go on to ensure that fire safety is being exercised in the encampments.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, and through the chair, from a proactive side, we do have inspectors that proactively go out to encampments and walk through, as well as being engaged with CIR whenever they go down as well to do walkthroughs.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, thank you, and through the chair, appreciate the work the fire department does. Obviously, I just had some concerns in my area, so I just wanted to take this opportunity to, get some more information in terms of the fire department's role in this, and appreciate, all the work that you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Purble next. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, I do have some questions for our police staff. It has to do with the 2.4 under consent. And thank you for all the work you and your team do, because again, if I look at the news, doesn't matter if it's printed, online, or TV news, there are a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of fires we have. So thank you for the entire team, the way it's approached and addressed. I do have a few questions because I think that I'm very curious about some of the answers, and I believe my colleagues as well. But the follow-up on the encampments, I did receive from individuals who are living there that in the past they did receive fire extinguishers, and I don't know if you can confirm that, or if it was done by London Fire, or if it was through some other agencies. But if you have any information on this, either from us directly or from someone else, if you can please confirm that or let me know update on this.
Through the chair, we've not provided fire extinguishers in encampments, so if they've been given some, it's been through another agency.
Thank you. Counselor.
Would there ever be a consideration to do so, or are there actually more negatives than positives?
Thank you. Chief Hamer.
Through the chair, we'd have to take that back and look at the pros and cons of providing that to the encampments before we could give a fulsome answer.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you. I certainly don't want to pass a motion, but I would love to hear if you can go back to it, and if you can provide an update, that would be great. I do have, so going back to the report that we received, I have a few questions, and the first one I'm going to start with. We created a similar number of social media posts, and in the past, last year, it reached much higher, in 23, much higher number than in 24. Can you please explain that to me, the reason for it?
Thank you. Chief Hamer.
Through the chair. Yeah, in 2023, we found when things went viral, the uptick was much faster. In 2024, we didn't find the same. So we've had approximately the same number of social media posts. We're unsure whether that's to do with the new social media landscape that we're dealing with and people moving to different platforms, or if people just aren't sharing as much. But definitely the number of people that had eyes on it went down because people aren't sharing or retweeting, whatever the wording is on that. But we're still investigating, looking at other platforms. We're just waiting for corporate direction on some of the new platforms that are coming out.
Thank you. Counselor.
Okay, thank you for that. The education, the safety education that we provided year-on-year comparison, it's 40,000, almost 30,000 more, which is amazing. That's great news. But I wanted to ask you, the biggest number is actually in the age group 5 to 14, which moved from roughly 1,000 to 20,000. And if you can explain that, the reason for that?
Thank you, Counselor. Chief Hamer.
Through the chair, one of the goals of the fire master plan was to get fire suppression personnel and inspectors involved in some of our public education. So the large increase in that is to do with an amazing team effort from across the department, providing education to school-age children, which would fall in public schools between 5 and about 13 to 14.
Thank you, Counselor.
Congratulations, and thank you for that. I think that's a great initiative. Over the last 2 years, we had about 20% residential fires that didn't have working smoke alarms. 25 public fire safety education priorities addressing this concern will hopefully decrease these incidents, actually increase the number of working fire detectors. Are there any specific initiatives to help this 20% to decrease to a lower number?
Thank you, Counselor. Please go ahead.
Well, through the chair, we are looking at many different programs to try and counteract that. It's frustrating for us to see that stat, as well as everybody else to see the stat, including the Ontario Fire Marshal. So we are looking at our After the Fire program targets areas that have had a fire. So basically suppression crews go out and target all around where the fire was to help people understand if there was working smoke alarms, if there wasn't, what the impact was. We also have a fire alarm program that runs in the spring through the fall. And we're looking at a new mapping software that allows us to ensure that we hit all areas within the city within so many years, so that'll be a cycle to go back to people. And as well, we're really hoping with that increased number of fire and life safety education in schools, that if those children can take those messages home as well to their families, that we might see a better statistic as we move forward.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you. In the report, staff personnel development, 24 new recruits. Those are firefighters or new positions? Or other positions?
Go ahead.
Through the chair, the 24 new recruits are actually new suppression recruits, so they're going onto the floor as we build our complement for Station 15 opening and the retirements that we've seen. We've also had an additional 8 employees start in the department, but in other areas.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you for that. Implementation NG 911, congratulations. We were again, I think, 5th in the report states out of 100, which is fantastic. Any issues with that, or everything is in place now?
Thank you, Counselor. Chief Hamer?
Through the chair, we're not seeing any issues. There is a slight learning curve with all new technology in the 911 center, but we're keeping an eye on that, and we're seeing some amazing things come out of the NG 911 technology.
Thank you. Counselor?
Fantastic, great to hear that. We are continuing to move forward in the building of the future protective service training facility in partnership with London Police Services. Any update that we can receive?
Please go ahead.
Steering and technical committees are still meeting and working collaboratively towards the protective services training facility, and I believe there will be an update to council in upcoming months.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you for that. I have last 2 questions. Appendix A, last year we did receive the update and it was in percentile of completed. This year we have either completed or on or stating on time within the timeline. So I just want to know 2 things. Why there was the change in this reporting, point 1, and point 2, is this all the 10-year program, or are there certain initiatives listed here that are less than 10 years?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through the chair, when we started to put together the report for this year and Appendix A, it's comprised of 22 action items, but behind that are greater than 100 goals involved in the background. So what we found is that the percentages, if goals have been added through the year, if we went to percentages, it might be that last year it was at 75%, but this year could come in at 63%, depending on how many goals were added, and it could be confusing. So to align better with the way that we report out on the City of London strategic plan, we changed it to the delayed, on track, or completed metric, just to make it easier to understand. As far as the goals and the 10 years, there are some that may be completed early within the 10-year cycle, but there's a commitment to continue to monitor those, and goals may change behind those. So for instance, NG 911, although we went live, if phase 2 becomes available in the next few years, it will be added to that action, and there'll be more goals associated with that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you for all the answers, and thank you and your entire team for everything you do for our community.
Thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Trusso next. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I would like to follow up on 2 questions that Councillor Pribble asked. The first one deals with the training center. And I would be very interested in getting a fuller response or a timeline for a fuller response in what the status of the training session is. And more particularly, when I look at the 2024 to 2027 multi-year budget, I see that there were large sums put aside for this project over all 4 years. And I'd be interested in when we get the update, and I know you can't maybe do this now, and I see that we don't have finance here, but when we get the update, it would be very helpful to have some specific information about whether the funds that were allocated for 2020, for the first 2 years of the 4-year budget, whether they were allocated or not. And I also see that the amount balloons at the end. And I guess my ultimate question, and this is going to have to go to the Budget Committee, so I'm not going to dwell on it here, but to what extent are there potential cost savings in deferring this project if it really hasn't been started? So I'm not going to develop this issue here, but I want to call it to your attention as a matter of concern and as something that should be of concern to the tax levy and also to the budget. So I'd appreciate it if those issues could be addressed. I know we're having a Budget Committee meeting on Thursday. You probably wouldn't be able to do it by then, but I'd be very interested in finding out more information about the status of this very expensive project. And you don't even need to respond to that. What I would like a response for, through the chair, is this issue of fire alarms. I'm very concerned about the lack of compliance with this very important requirement, particularly, I mean, I represent the near campus neighborhood, and I get a lot of calls and concerns about the property conditions in many of the best term would be formerly single occupancy, single family dwellings that have been converted to either by absentee owners to large groups of people. And I notice through when I go through some of these units, I'm often appalled at the conditions I see, whereas where different parts of the unit have been locked off from other units, which I think creates a very, very serious fire hazard. And if there's a smoke alarm in one part of the building, it's not necessarily there in the rest of the building. So my direct question is, to what extent has the fire department been working with property standards, code compliance, bylaw enforcement on this very, very important issue?
Thank you, Counselor. I will go to Chief Hayward.
Through the chair. So we have a proactive and a reactive side to that. So proactive, we are working closely with building through the residential unit licensing inspections that we do. And then from a reactive side of things, we do have a complaint process where complaints come in and we are legislated to investigate those complaints within a period of time to go through, because sometimes we do the proactive piece, but by the time we get the complaint, things have changed very much behind closed doors. So then with the complaint process, we're able to go back in and have a look.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you for that, and I'm glad that you are working with code compliance. I'm not sure what the protocols are to responding to a complaint, and I'm not going to go into detail there. Mr. Mathers knows that this is an item that I've been concerned about for a long time. When we're talking about this particular issue, though, we're talking about a fire hazard, not just for the occupants of that building, who maybe they're only there for 8 months. I'm more worried about when you're not getting complaints. Because if there's a fire, it's going to have a very detrimental effect, not just on the residents in that building, or maybe it'll happen over the summer when they're not even there. It's going to have a devastating effect on the neighbors who don't have the ability to go into the unit and see if there's proper compliance with this requirement. So I just want to signal my grave concern about this issue. I've signaled it on many occasions to code compliance, and I'm signaling it to the fire department. And I finally want to make the observation, and this is not something that I can deal with today. Okay, I'm concerned about the fact that fire and code compliance are in two totally different portfolios, and would it make more sense if they both reported to the same deputy city manager for purposes of working together? That is a long-term discussion, and this is something I just want to throw out there as long as I'm talking about this. But thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you, Counselor. You ran out of time on that last one, but there was a last-minute question I think you had in there. Do you want me to go to staff for that? Okay, I'll go to. Okay, we'll take those comments for now, and then we'll discuss later. Thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Cuddy next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. And I'd like to pick up on Councillor Trossow's comments because, like Councillor Trossow, I have Fanshawe students in my ward, and because Fanshawe has not invested in housing, they are living in residences that have been converted. Many of them illegally. And I appreciate your comments that you work with bylaw and enforcement, and I see my good friend Mr. Kurtolik here, and welcome back. But there's not enough people in bylaw. There's not enough staff in bylaw to look after all of these people. And in fact, I'm out in my ward this afternoon after this meeting to deal with the student issue. And here we, Fanshaw's been down for a month, but I'm still dealing with student issues out there. And invariably, they will continue through the summer. And this isn't a question for you. This is just a comment that we have a major, major problem, not only in Councillor Trossow's ward, but in my ward as well. And it's one that's not improving. And I, like Councillor Trossow, I can't tell you the number of homes that I've been through, probably illegally, because I, as a councillor, I'm not supposed to walk into a home and investigate, I'm sure. But I do, because I'm concerned. I'm really concerned for the safety, just like Councillor Trossow, I'm concerned for the safety of the residents. And many of them are not safe, and they are fire hazards, in my opinion. I have no expertise in fire hazards and safety, but I'm really concerned about this. And so I hope at some stage we can deal with this at a greater level.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other Counselor? Stevenson, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you guys do to support our community. I'm going to follow up on the encampment fire question. And I had seen in the Gazette in the fall of 2024, there was an article that talked about encampments, and it said that they'd intentionally changed what the approach was to encampments, and that previously firefighters were dispatched to homeless encampments would douse open fires. But since implementing the new roadmap, firefighters now provide instruction to those living in encampments on safe practices for using and extinguishing small fires for heating and for cooking. And I just wondered, knowing that we have our encampment outreach funded until the end of March, which is going to go right through the winter, I just wondered, are there resources or guidelines available for people living in encampments and also for residents in the community so they know what is allowed, what isn't allowed, and who and when to call?
Thank you, Counselor. I will go to Ms. Smith.
Thanks, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to the chief. So to be really clear, and we did clarify after that news article came out, that fires are not allowed. It's in our bylaw. We do not allow them. If an individual sees a fire in a park, which they do, they are to call 911 immediately. Fire comes out, they put out the fire, they educate. Our system, every time there's a fire, the captain or the chief or platoon chief reports it into their ICO, their software. We automatically copy CIR on all encampment fires, explain where the location were, if there were displaced people. In the wintertime, the firefighters carry a small kit with water, socks, and a hat. And they then follow up with CIR in hopes that CIR then comes out, follows up, and helps assist those displaced people if possible. A lot of times too, there is a large amount of debris. So that's why we inform CIR, so that the appropriate response can happen the next day, both with the individuals. So their fires are not allowed. I get a copy of every fire notification in encampment, and they put out every single fire, whether it's heating a cup of coffee, some food, it's in our bylaw. It is very clear, it is not allowed, and they do not allow fires to happen in public parks or even on private property unless it's contained in your backyard. You must own the property to be allowed to have an open air burn.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Councillor Stevenson, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that clarity because I did get a lot of questions there, and that's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking to committee members, visiting members for any other comments or questions. I see none. Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that is it for consent items. That leaves us to schedule items. We have none. Next would be items for direction. We have 4 items on that. So for item 4.1, I will look to committee for any potential motions. Councillor, do you have a motion?
Is there a motion that should be put on the floor first?
Yeah, that's correct. We can't discuss any items without a motion on the floor.
Is there something in, I'll have to help. What do we have from?
I believe Councillor Pribble might have the answer for you.
No, is there, before that amendment, is there?
No, there's nothing. This is just a letter from Councillor Stevenson. There is no motion in that letter. I haven't, I've quickly, briefly seen a motion earlier today, but I'm not sure what the final motion would be.
Okay, may I ask staff a question?
Not if we don't have a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'll move that we note and receive the communication and take no further action at this time.
I'll second that.
Now, may I ask staff a question?
Just give us a second. Let's get it up. Okay, if you refresh your e-scribes, it should be there, and I can go to Councillor Trussell, and I got Councillor Pribble next. Go ahead, Councillor Trussell.
I would just like to ask staff about this. We did not have, and thank you for reminding me, we did not actually have a motion or a recommendation or a staff report on this. And before we debate the merits of the motion that apparently is coming forward, I'd like to ask staff if there was a reason why there wasn't a correspondence on this agenda, or is just something going to be coming from your office soon?
Councillor, just to clarify the question, this was a letter from Councillor Stevenson. Staff may have some comments, but I know that they wouldn't be able to fully answer. But I will go to staff if they have anything that they would want to add.
Through you, Chair, no, we wouldn't. There's no corresponding motion or staff direction to provide correspondence. This is a letter received as part of the agenda.
Thank you, Counselor.
In which case, I'm just going to underline that the motion that I just made, I think is appropriate at this point. And I would like to see, I'd like to see these discussions initiated through a thoughtful staff report, not something that people just put on the floor at the last minute. I'll reserve the rest of my time to speak to the motion if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. You want to use the
Point of
minute?
privilege.
I got one point of privilege. Privilege? Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, there was a comment made that it was done at the last moment. This was on the original agenda. It wasn't even on the added, so, and a motion was circulated, and just want to make that point.
Thank you. Point taken. I won't call any action for that. Counselor Pribble.
Thank you, yes, and I would like to make the motion which was circulated earlier today and with 4 points. First points A, B, C, D, so.
Point of order, there is a motion on the floor. That is contrary to.
Yeah, there is a point. Just a second. Let me just confer with clerk for its contrary nature. Okay, Counselor, just conferred with clerk. That is contrary to the motion on the floor. So we would have to disperse of this motion before any potential motions come in the future. And I'm still have you on my speakers list, so if you have anything you'd like to add, you can go ahead.
There's really not much to add. So we are going to deal with the first one, and then if it doesn't pass, then I do have a motion with certain points that I would like to proceed with questions to the staff.
Okay. I have Counselor McAllister next. Please go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, and through the chair. So I'll be honest, I understand what's going on right now, and I don't fully agree with it, just because even if we disagree with a motion, we don't all sit on every committee. I even have something tomorrow that I'm bringing to PEC, and I think every counselor, if they come to committee, deserves the opportunity to speak to it, whether we agree with it or not. I think receiving it cuts off an avenue, which I personally think is actually unfair. I'll weigh the merits of the motion, the alternate motion, but I don't think it's fair to just shut down discussion this way, because we all sit on different committees. I think we have to afford each other the opportunity to speak to it, whether we agree with it or not.
Thank you, Counselor. You can speak to the item right now as it is, because it is in respect with respect to the letter, so there's no shutting down of conversation or discussion. You can take your time. You have an extra 3 minutes and 40 seconds to discuss all you want to this specific item, so you can speak to that, as well as members of committee and visiting members. Anybody else? Counselor Stevenson.
Thank you, and I appreciate Councillor McAllister saying that. I mean, I put this on the agenda. I said that I would have a motion on the added. With the long weekend, I was unable to get a hold of councillors to work this through, to bring something forward, to try to do the work ahead of time at committee. It was circulated prior to this meeting with someone willing to put forward the motion. So you can say that you're willing to engage in the debate, but really you've got a councillor that has brought forward a motion. I don't have a voting seat on this committee because I chose not to put myself in a position of being in a committee where I'd been, allegations of bullying and harassment had been brought against me by a deputy city manager that's actively involved in this committee. That,
Counselor?
no, it matters
Counselor,
that, what are you stopping me based on?
Counselor, I would like to stick with the letter that was sent to committee. So if you could just tighten it up and keep to the focus of.
I will tighten it up, but I'm going to put it clearly on the record now that the issues that were addressed in that complaint have not been dealt with. And so I am here and I'm expecting, no, I get to say this, that senior management will communicate with the chair and they will hold this meeting in such a way that the conduct is dealt with here in the meeting. So I'm saying I'm going to talk about this thing and I'm asking questions of staff, but I'm asking you guys to, I'm saying that you're running the meeting, staff are able to say when they feel things are uncomfortable, and I'm expecting this committee to be run in a way that things are dealt with
Okay, Counselor.
right now.
I am operating this committee and running this committee to order. You have all the chances that you can to speak to the item of the letter of what the motion pertains to. I have already told you to keep your scope of comments to that letter. You have gone beyond that scope. I let you go beyond that scope, but I'm going to stop it now. If you can stick to the motion, you have all the chances to speak. You have 3 minutes and 25 seconds left, so I can go back to you, but please keep your comments to the letter and the motion.
Okay. So I brought this forward because in the last Community and Protective Services agenda, there was a report, the Q1 2025 from Whole of Community Response, that said that the Strategy and Accountability Table had endorsed 3 locations for highly supportive housing. I immediately sent an email and asked if I could be made aware of where those locations were. And I was told that the organizations were going to make announcements and we would find out before, which we did. We received an email 20 minutes before the public announcement. So what it brings up is the question of myself, and I don't believe any other members of council are aware of who sits on that strategy and accountability table, how many people are on it, what organizations are represented, what the vote was, and if there were any concerns expressed during that endorsement process. So through you to staff, I'd like to know that information if possible, or if there is a way of getting that information.
Thank you, Counselor. I can take that question. I will go to Mr. Dickens. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. There's not an organizational or governance chart. However, a list of participating organizations. When we brought forward the HUBs plan and the housing implementation plan, for sure, my memory fails me on whether it's in the original collective impact model report that council endorsed, but we did list all of the participating organizations in both of those reports. We could absolutely circulate to council a list of the organizations, or we can post it on our Get Involved site, a list of the organizations that participate. I would refrain from listing individuals because individuals change, or folks and representatives. But yeah, all of our plans that council has received and endorsed list all the participating organizations. Those are consistent with those that are participating at the SAT table as well. We also have 2 members of council that participate on the SAT table, which is the mayor and the budget chair, as well as the deputy mayor acts as a backup. So there are members of this council that are also participating.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Councilor Stevenson.
Thank you. So the vote for these, the endorsement of these 3 locations, were they unanimous votes? Were there any concerns expressed as they reviewed those for endorsement?
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Dickens.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Unlike council chambers, these are not recorded votes. This is not looking at getting a majority. The model that council endorsed was a collective impact model. It was outlined in that report how the consensus building decision-making model would operate. So we work through that consensus building model. It means that we receive decisions from time to time that we need to make in terms of perhaps revisions on the plan, or people who might be stepping into some table co-chair roles, or when community partners present projects that they would like to proceed with and they want to bring the community partners along. What we do is we have a very robust and sometimes lengthy dialogue with those that are participating to talk about the projects or about the decision, or, we've had consensus building on how we recognize and acknowledge those that we've lost in our community and read out the names or don't read out the names of those that have died. We don't record votes on that. We try to build consensus. So that process, and specific to this question, the same thing occurred. Really meaningful, deep conversation, discussions, debate about the projects. And as a group, the group was able to gain consensus that we were comfortable with these projects moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Counselor?
Thank you. As was sort of brought up when this whole of community system response began, all 3 levels were excluded from the first 3 strategy sessions. And still, again, is there a reason why a group of sort of unidentified, unelected people are able to have this conversation and council is not privy to any of that, even through confidential?
Thank you, Counselor. We unanimously endorsed the whole of community response when it first came to council, so that would probably be along the lines of the answer that you're looking for, but I will look to staff to see if they have anything to add.
Again, through you, Chair, we would be happy, as we have in previous plans, we've listed all of the participating organizations. We have had some of those organizations, we've had some of those people come and present to council. We will continue to have some of those co-chairs come and present to council. I think this has been a very transparent process. We do have members of this council that are on the strategy and accountability table. So I get that this whole of community is not elected, but it was never intended to be an elected group of people. And I appreciate that these same questions were asked to the previous city manager, and these were decisions that council endorsed at that time. We would look for different direction from council if there were to be changes made. But as I already answered, we'd be happy to provide a list of participating organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Before I go back to the counselor, I got Counselor Pribble and Counselor Pelosi next on the list, so I will get to you. Counselor Stevenson.
Maybe I misunderstood the question. I'm asking why we couldn't have the locations through confidential briefing, why we're not told of the locations, just that there's 3.
And just to confirm, these are the locations for the Huron and Hill Street. Those are included there?
Yeah, and there's one more with 90 units that we still don't know where that is.
Okay, before I go to staff, I would say those were led by CMHC and LCF, and if there's any changes to zoning or funding requirements from council, that would come to us, but I am going to go to Mr. Dickens if he has anything to add.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Similar to this morning when a notice was provided to council moments before a press release was issued. This is a consistent practice that happens across all of the departments of my colleagues. With these properties in particular, the city does not own these properties. And to this point, depending on future discussions, up until that point, we have not invested directly with any city funds. The strategy and accountability table is a place where operational work or discussions and strategic discussions occur. The proponents of these projects at the life cycle that they were in brought it to this group as a sort of a checkpoint on proceeding. When through conversations with our corporate communications team who work directly with the project proponents with CMHA and Indwell, they were the ones that were able to identify the timing of their rollout. So it went from our discussions at our strategy accountability table to notifying council before the release went public, which is consistent with other departments at the city, we feel.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. And I would add, I had that conversation with you today and prior, and this informative information is available to us outside of committee. So go ahead, Councillor. You have 1 minute, 38 seconds.
The thing is, I don't even know what this whole community system response is right now. Council endorsed this and set it up, but I don't recall saying that that we no longer wanted to play a role in this. And that's what this was about. The organizational governance chart, I did see one in early 2023 when I attended one of the whole of community system response. It was quite elaborate. It had London City Council and London Community Foundation at the top. It had all the tables and everything all underneath. That was never shared with council. I do think that we get to figure out what is council's role in this? What are we passing maybe even to the next city council? What is this organization? What is their terms of reference? What are we asking them to do? I had thought they were bringing recommendations back to council. I didn't realize that they were making recommendations, I guess, on our behalf or that it was operational. And I feel very uncomfortable receiving a report telling me that lots of people know about and endorse things that are happening in our community that matter to neighborhoods, and their city councillor is not afforded even a confidential briefing to just let us know what's out there. And so this was my point of bringing this forward, was to say, I'd like council to see that organizational chart. I'd like us to know what the process is. Just let us know. What's the process for endorsing supportive housing and hubs going forward? What's the communication plan? Are we going to know 20 minutes before the public? That's fine. Who else is going to know and when? And I think that's fair. That way we can say to the community, look, it's not us. We don't have a say in the highly supportive housing. We've delegated that authority. So if you have any issues with the locations that are chosen, this is who you should speak to.
Is there a question there?
No.
Okay. I have Councillor Purple next. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, and I do have some questions, but I want to make a comment. It's too bad that the motion didn't go through, because I really didn't like the way this conversation went, and I really think that if we put up the motion first, that would be in much more proactive atmosphere and making things actually better. The reason why I actually supported and made some changes to these 4 points was to have a discussion. We did receive the original report, which had 60+ pages, but of course there are certain things that over the years, months, certain things change, and there are certain things that are forgotten or omitted. But this was an opportunity for us to have a discussion which things are moving forward and which things that some of us would like to have. It's like, for example, the current organizational chart and government structure. As mentioned, we do know, some of us do know, that there was one in place, and I think it would be great beneficial if the councillors would get to see it, not just for current, but also for future council. So if the things don't go some positive, not as well as expected, so certain things can be compared to which direction we went, and potentially what worked, what didn't work, and based on what. And I think this was the value in this motion, not being negative or to start the way we started today, because I think that's not the reason, and that shouldn't be our goal. Our goal is to deliver the best possible results for 500,000 of Londoners. And I'm going to go and, even though the motion is not in front of us, I will still ask kind of the questions what's in front of us kind of now, so I can address it. But with the organizational charts and government structure, is there one currently in place that could be shared with the councillors? So let's say if there are any future changes, so current and future council can go back to it and potentially compare things, how they worked, and where there is a potential room for improvement.
Thank you, Councillor. So the question is there an organizational chart in place for the strategy and accountability table? So I will go to Mr. Dickens.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Sorry, we were just trying to pull up a previous council report that had the whole of community collective impact model outlined. I believe it's from July of 2023. I'd have to confirm. We're just trying to find it in real time. In that council report depicted, I think it was May 2023. It depicted, I think, what's being referenced as a governance structure. It is the integrated wheel that shows council and other orders of government and people with lived experience are at the center of it. No, that getting head shakes, that's not it. So we'll have to dig out whatever this governance structure is that's being referenced and find that. But there are co-chairs for each implementation table, and there's co-chairs that change at the strategy and accountability table. As far as future-proofing for other councils, I'm not sure what else there is other than our existing framework and the plans that have been approved by council that we're trying to fulfill. The co-chairs will change out as they typically do. As the mayor stated at the last council meeting, and as we've discussed prior, there is a full review going on of the strategy and accountability table and looking what that structure even needs to look like. Perhaps changes in membership or change in size, but we're going through that work in real time. So I wouldn't be able to hand you a structure now if it's going to change next month or the month after. We're in the midst of that work, as we indicated at the last council meeting last week.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. And just to follow up for that one, as was said at the last council meeting, we're expecting a mid-review and a revised structure by June 5th, was it?
Through you, Chair, the next strategy and accountability table meeting is June 5th. It would follow subsequent that.
Okay, thanks. Back to the councillor. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll make a comment on that. When organizations make certain decisions and they're done in the past, it could be, let's say, issue could be with individuals, with the structure, with the policies. But I think it's really great if all three are in front of the councillors, either current ones or future ones, so they can make accurate evaluation of the things that were done in the past. If they were done great, everything is working great, fantastic, amazing. But if they are not, so there are these three areas that can be addressed: structure, individuals, and policies, or the actions arising from these. And that's where I see the value asking, and again, to be honest with you, maybe it might not be the original one, maybe the May one. But again, because again, I don't think between, let's say, if there is one that you have, staff has from May, between January and May, I don't think there were so many actions arising from these tables. So I think that any one of them would be really valuable to see where we were and where we are now. So we can do the comparisons and we can really say, this is the reasoning why we did what we did and evaluate it. The process of endorsements for future highly supportive housing. Again, this is an area that we addressed or more in detail last week, specific ones for specific certain number of properties. But again, is there could this be done in writing, specific process, how this will be addressed? Question to the staff, through the chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Just gonna, do you mind rephrasing that question? I won't count it towards your time.
Oh no, the current process, what we have for the endorsements for future highly supportive housing. And again, it's the current one. So again, if we move to another one, so we know what we had before and we can see the flow from the past to the present to the future.
Okay, Councillor is looking for the current process for endorsing highly supportive housing or hubs as it is at the moment with the Health and Homelessness Summits and how it comes to council.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I think when it comes to seeking council direction or decision on projects, so in the past we've issued an RFP, and the results of that RFP will come back to council for council direction on awarding those contracts. That will still be the case. If we issue or go to award from a procurement process, as it does in all departments, it would come to council for decision. That being said, if the province of Ontario, as they recently did, opened up an application process for public entities to apply for a heart hub, that does not require council endorsement or direction. especially if the city's not the lead applicant. So there are things that are going to happen in the community that may not come through city council until a decision or direction or support is required, be it funding or zoning, which are the applicable processes that are in place now.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Go ahead, Councilor Purple.
Thank you for that response. And maybe I'm not going to speak on behalf of myself, not the entire council, but I just want to say that it's not that personally I would be against these initiatives. I think they are very positive initiatives. But again, the process and the information, that brings me to the other point. You know, the communication plan for such projects and initiatives for not just the London Community Foundation, but also for the council and the public. I know, Mr. Dickens, you just mentioned it now, but are there other opportunities, let's say, that again, the council and also the public would be advised, I don't know if the right word is as soon as possible or earlier than currently?
Point of order, please
Point of order.
state point.
I believe that the staff has answered this question to the best of their ability with respect to the very confidential nature of some of the things that are in RFP and other applications. And I just think we're just asking the same question here over and over again. So I would request that I think we're getting to the point where we're badgering the staff, and I just want to avoid that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I wouldn't say we're badgering the staff, but that question has been answered already. And just to confirm, if it's not a city-led initiative and there's no zoning changes and there's no funding requests, then any proponent, as long as the zoning is correct for their operations, they wouldn't necessarily need to go through the city. So that is what Mr. Dickens has just stated. So I will take his previous answer to the new question for the councillor. That is what the answer is. I can go back to Councillor Pribble. You have 11 seconds left.
I will briefly ask Mr. Dickens if there was anything else, because again, I'm not badgering this at all, really, again, in the interest of 500,000 of Londoners. So again, my question is if there was anything else that he can think of right now, any other initiative to make this and this information provided earlier or not. I don't think it's badgering. He did tell me one answer, what he had, or he answered it. But again, I have additional question, follow up on that. I'm not badgering at all.
Thank you, Councillor. As the chair's ruling, you were not badgering staff. I will go to Mr. Dickens for that last question. That was your last question because you have ran out of your time. But Mr. Dickens, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. There will be, absolutely, there will be instances where we're coming to council for direction early on in projects or seeking direction. In this instance, again, with the two properties in question, CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association, these are properties that they own. They came to the strategy and accountability table looking for a conversation with community partners and looking for that support and endorsement to proceed to the Fund for Change for some of their funding requests to start to match funds with other orders of government that they had applied for funding to. There was no funding ask of that time from the city. The city's involvement in this conversation, we're there to help advance the priorities of council. We don't make decisions on behalf of council, but we are participating members of SAT to help assist in advancing this work. And council endorsed a highly supportive housing plan, which was to create more units of highly supportive housing. In this instance, no, there is not an ability for me to have brought this project forward to the public in advance or any sooner. This was not our project. It is CMHA's project. They indicated when they would like to communicate this in collaboration with the London Community Foundation, which to this point is the funder. It would not be in our power to then announce that in advance publicly or ask for public input on what CMHA should do with the properties they own at that point, unless it was going through the zoning process.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. I got Councillor Pelosa next. Please go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just going to take the opportunity to thank staff and our community partners who continue to volunteer their time to help with the whole system community response. I would say I'd find some of these comments from the writer of the letter disheartening. I was appointed by council, as was the mayor, to serve on this committee on behalf of council. I am always available for questions and conversations behind the scenes, and have not had a request from any member of council. I'm wondering if perhaps the request for this organization chart is not necessarily the org chart per se, but just rather the listing of what the tables are, the implementation tables that would report into the strategy and accountability table with a request of who's currently their co-chairs. As Mr. Dickens said, everything's under review as we transition into the next phases, as other hubs are coming online. And I know it's difficult when the information and the decision-making on behalf of Londoners, sometimes it's actually not ours to make. These are independent organizations seeking funding through provincial and federal means. And if the city is not the issuers of an RFP, we're not going to get the information until, as outlined, sometimes it's 20 minutes beforehand that a notice is going public and we get to know it. Always handy to reach out to those people who are the operators of those sites, asking for a tour, more information that could be shared with residents and the public. But do find it troubling that I've heard comments that it's questioning votes, that it's not public, not democratic. Some of these decisions aren't ours, and are the ones that are ours have been in public reports, and we have co-chairs that come to us to committee to present and answer questions. So I am available to answer questions should anyone wish to approach me on council behind the scenes. And the mayor and I, we trade off who's at the meetings. I don't believe the deputy mayor has been needed at any meeting yet, as the mayor and I trying to take it as a priority to make sure that one of us are there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I would say every time I contact Councillor Peloso, she answers and she gives me all the information. She's very helpful and very receptive to our calls. I have myself on the speakers list next, so I'd like to hand the chair over to Councillor McAllister.
Okay, recognizing I have the chair, just give me one moment to set up my timer here. Whenever you're ready, go ahead, Councillor Ferrer.
Thank you, Councillor. So a lot of this stuff that I wanted to point out has been stated, but I just wanted to go over the letter and then the motion, or the letter, I should say, and the points that were brought out in the letter. So I guess the first part was, and I know we spoke about this, the current organizational chart or governance structure. And that does exist in some of our past reports with the circles with, I guess, the people who we serve are right at the center, and it kind of builds out from that. Depending on how that organizational structure works, whether it's like a tree-like figure or not the circles themselves, I would assume that we don't necessarily need a motion from staff to get that revamped. And I would also assume that because there is a mid-review for the revised structure coming in June, we should wait for that before anything. Because if we were to pass any type of motion now for the governance chart, that would be outdated within a couple of weeks. So I just don't want to have staff do that work and then have it outdated. For the vote counts in the current flow, that was spoken to as well, and it was very clearly articulated by Mr. Dickens, where if these are not city-led initiatives and the zoning doesn't need to change and the funding is there on the third party who's making this initiative, there's nothing that really can come to council for us to approve. It would be akin if I wanted to open up a gym in an area that's properly zoned and someone doesn't like that. If I don't need to have a zoning change and I don't need money from the city to help me open that gym, then I can open the gym. Council would not be able to stop that unless they were to change the zoning back. And it was also kind of very well articulated, that was with the work that we see for those highly supportive housing units, that is a third party bringing in these initiatives funded by the London Community Foundation. The strategy and accountability table endorsed it and they endorsed it because this is exactly what council is requesting with our strategic plan and with all the discussions that we made. So the council, or so the strategy and accountability table are taking council direction and using that direction to bring forward the type of housing that we need. For the communication plan, I didn't really hear this articulated too much, but I would like to maybe go to maybe Mr. Dickens or whoever can answer this about the communication plan with respect to communications coming from a third party or communications coming from the city. And I guess the disconnect that you might seem, that has kind of been spoken to, but just with the third party and the city-led initiatives, I know that we can't be communicating someone else's initiative. So if I could just go to staff for, I guess, an explanation of that.
Go ahead, staff, when you're ready.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So certainly I can confirm that we've heard very clearly that there seems to be a disconnect between what some organizations in the community are doing and the communication coming forward to council. What I can say is that we work very closely with our community partners. We share and we advocate for sharing in advance as much as possible, and we will continue to do that. There is, as Mr. Dickens said, where the information is not ours or the event or the process is not ours, we have a very limited capacity to be able to influence the timing of that communication. And there are reasons that organizations would have behind their own timing decisions. We will continue to advocate for advanced sharing wherever possible, recognizing again that our influence may be not exactly where council might want it to be on a particular project. But we do our best to make sure that we are sharing as much as possible in advance. And sometimes that timing just is not exactly what council might like, and we have heard that, and we'll take that back in terms of trying to find perhaps some processes that might work to share information even more proactively where we can. Again, recognizing that, as Mr. Dickens said, it's not always possible.
Thank you. And to that note, we would need the third-party proponent to be involved in that communication as well. So if the third party is unwilling to provide any information, we can't really provide information at that point. So this is why we see kind of the gaps in communication that are being spoken to here. Is strictly just kind of how things are aligned right now when it comes to council's work and any type of third party's work that are involving in the same space. Going to the two councilors, the mayor and Councilor Pelosi, as I already said, they're very receptive to any type of inquiries or information that you may need regarding meetings that are going on. So I would leverage that to the full extent because they are very receptive, as I said, and I do thank Councilor Pelosi for helping me on that. I guess the last point that I saw in the letter, the potential of making a formal council committee to or a standing committee or a council committee or advisory committee or whatever it was. So that was spoken to pretty at length here. You know, that would risk replacing that consensus-driven cross-sector model with the political process. And that was set up in a way to keep things at arm's length, to avoid delays and avoid partner trust. So I would be to the note that I would like to keep that the way it is at the moment because there needs to be a level of insulation for these discussions to happen. But in the end, anything that comes to council for council's support or council's recommendation or council funding or zoning, that comes to us, and that's where our place is for the debate. That's where our place is for the discussion. We need to ensure that any type of initiatives
30 seconds.
that come out of that come out with that kind of insular effect, that come out with that arm's length effect so we can have the full breadth and scope of what the potential is. If we are to be putting in more of a deeper of a council control, we would risk not being as effective. So those would be my comments for now. I know the Vice Chair said I'm probably out of time, so I'll end it there and I can take the chair back. Thank you, Vice Chair.
You right on time. 5 minutes, 34 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Looking to Councillor Pribble, you have 0 time. Okay. What do you got?
And actually, because I do have one important question, and I would like to ask for additional 1 minute. for
Okay.
one question that I would like to ask staff.
I need a seconder. Seconded by Counselor McAllister. Okay, and let's put that to the vote. Okay, it's up, so you can vote now.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-1.
Okay, Counselor, you have 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And through the chair to the staff, important information for me, the projected vision future outlook for the whole of community system response. And I believe that there are certain things in works, but can you please confirm that? And if that it will be the case, what is the timeline on these changes? Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I believe timeline might be difficult to answer right now because it is in discussion, but I will go to staff when they're ready.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I can't speak to the future vision or mission or anything like that at this point. But the work that is happening as quickly as possible, and we expect it to wrap up over the summer and come back in September or early fall.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. Counselor, go ahead.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, some of you have some time left, so I'm just going to canvass the committee if you want to use that time. Counselor McAllister, you have a bit of time left. You have 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, I try to use my time wisely. So I'm still of the mind that I think, you should weigh the merits of each motion, recognize it came late, but I think we've all been in positions where sometimes things come up. But to have the discussion at committee, I think is the appropriate place. I will say another thing that I find comes up a lot in these conversations. I can sympathize with the counselor in terms of these topics. I spend a great deal of my time with these issues, more so than some of my colleagues. So I understand that. I can understand the frustration of sometimes not having the information or having to hunt it down. So I do get that. I personally was willing to entertain the motion because there were elements that I do think warrant discussion. I was particularly interested in A and D. I do think having that organizational chart and governance structure updated regularly, not necessarily with the names as being indicated, because that does change depending on organization and representative. But I also do think D really deserves consideration in that we really do need to, I think, as we get closer to the next election in 2026, I think it's important that we leave this council term with an understanding of what the vision or the outlook looks like with the whole of community response. Yes, there's been work done to date, but I do think having that handed off with a kind of fulsome review of what's been done to date and where we see things going in the future, I think is actually important. I would say with B and C, I think we did, as Councillor Pribble said, we kind of had the discussion last week. I think I'm of a different mind when it comes to the highly supportive housing. I view it more along the lines of almost healthcare, and I think there are a lot of issues that don't necessarily need the political weigh-in, but I do think, especially with the organizations that are involved, I've had a lot of discussions with Indwell and CMHA in the past, and I know what they can do, and I know what they are doing, and the projects they're bringing forward, how much effort they put into them. But I can, again, understand where councillors, when things come up in their wards, wanting to have that information. So, I'm understanding of where this comes from. I think we should, as I said, weigh the motions as they come forward, and I don't necessarily agree with just brushing it aside and not taking any action. I think it's just a procedural thing that I don't necessarily agree with. Understand where my colleagues are coming from, but I do think as motions come forward from colleagues who are not necessarily on every committee that we should weigh them separately. So I'll leave it there. I know we've had a lengthy discussion on this, but I won't support the receive but take no action just because I think we should have dealt with this motion separately.
Thank you, Counselor. Looking for any other members, visiting members? Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 3 to 2.
Okay. I am on the next item. That is item 4.2 for the staff memo, affordable and supportive housing agreement templates. And that item has the staff recommendation from the previous committee meeting. So that would be the motion that would be with the updated wording. So I would look for a mover, moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor Trusso. Okay, looking for a speakers list. Members of committee, visiting members. Oh, Councillor Trusso, please go ahead.
Through the chair, would this be an appropriate time to hear from the representative who has requested delegation status, who is in the audience?
That, I believe, is the next item, 4.3. They are related, but that specific delegation is for the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call. Members, visiting members, Councillor Stevenson, go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, the ones that came to us this time came through an RFP process, and I see that that appears to be in the contribution agreement. So will all affordable housing projects like this go through the RFP process and the highly supportive contribution agreements will not?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So these are, when we started working and implementing the roadmap, this was the tool that we were using at the time. So we issued the RFPQ in late 2023. We had our second year of the RFPQ last fall as well, and we'll have our third year coming in this fall, where we pre-qualify organizations that are interested in building affordable and supportive housing within London. So what you have here is the award of those RFPs and the contribution agreement for those RFPs that we issued last summer. So there are 4 affordable housing projects, and now the 2 highly supportive housing projects, which are identified in item 4.3. We also have a CIP under which that allows us to incubate and work with different proponents in the community and let them come to us with their ideas, with their projects, with the housing that they want to build, and we can work with them iteratively through the process before we ultimately determine if they are eligible for roadmap funding or highly supportive housing. The other projects that we also have are the ones that we might be making shovel ready. So that would be, an example would be the Fairmont School, where we're going out and we'll be developing a subdivision. We also have the Duluth School, which we're actually servicing right now, and that was the Wastel project that we brought forward in the past. Those will continue. Any of our shovel ready projects will continue to come through RFP, and we will be bringing those reports back to council for consideration and award.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. Councillor?
Thank you, and through the chair. So, but the bulk of these that come through with this affordable contribution agreement will not come before council again, is that correct?
Mr. Felberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair, any project that is led or started by an independent organization, a third-party organization that comes through our CIP, we currently have delegated authority to enter into those agreements. It's the most efficient way for us to do that and work iteratively with those proponents and those property owners.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, and through the chair, can you just give me a brief outline of what that RFP was for, that these 5 came back as approved?
Thank you. Mr. Felberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there were, we had 2 RFPs. We had 2024-227. It's outlined in the report from April 28th. And that addresses the proponents with their own projects that they wanted to bring forward. And then we had, I believe it was 2024-225, which was the office to residential project. So that was our friends with Sifton and Homes Unlimited, who are converting 195 Dufferin. So those 2 projects are identified in that April 28th report. I might have the exact numbers off, but that's generally it, and those 6 projects are all identified in there.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. That was impressive, calling the RFP numbers. Councillor.
Thank you, and through the chair, I just wanted to confirm also that these RFPs were done under strong mayor powers and the details were not included in a staff report to council.
Thank you. Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. The RFPs went out under our procurement policy and were delivered appropriately under the rules that we were required to follow. The Strong Mayor Awards came, I believe, in November for 1 or 2 of the projects, and then the balance came in January. In that Strong Mayor Award, all the award was doing was committing to the projects so that the proponents could then take action and be able to demonstrate commitment from the city, which allows them to go work more effectively with CMHC, which is their primary financer. And then in that, both of those Strong Mayor Awards, it did identify that we would be bringing back contribution agreements for the final endorsement and approval by council, which is what you have before you today.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, and I wasn't implying anything untoward. It's just that in the report that came to council, it said that it was approved by council in January, and when I wasn't able to find it, the response was that it was a strong mayor bylaw, which didn't have a staff report. So I did find it in the details once I was given that information. I guess my confusion around this one with the affordable housing is prior to the decision made by council, we were going to have these affordable contribution agreements used for these 2 highly supportive contribution projects. So I'm just wondering, as we go to approve this, and I know it says that now they can't be amended to be converted, like to be highly supportive housing. I'm just wondering why that was brought that way in the first place. Why did it come as an affordable housing contribution agreement amended to highly supportive rather than come directly through the ones previously approved?
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to Mr. Felberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It really is a case of timing. So there was a commitment through the strategy and accountability table to consider these, to allow the agency to approach the Fund for Change for funding. But that announcement for, or the commitment from the Fund for Change didn't actually occur until, I believe it was last week or the week before, which was after Community and Protective Services. So it was a case of us trying to be as efficient as possible in order to allow these projects to move forward. The CMHA project ultimately will come forward as that highly supportive housing project. And through the amendment, what it allows us to do is apply the rules or the parameters and that level of service expected in that highly supportive housing plan. It allows us to attach it to the contribution agreement with CMHA, and allows us to have a higher level of oversight on the project. So ensuring that we have those 24/7 supports on site, ensuring that there are tenancy supports to help the individuals in the property as well. But most important, and the thing for me that is the most important, is the community engagement component of the highly supportive housing plan. It requires that the proponents actively build relationships within the community and the surrounding neighbors. It also looks for regular communication with the neighbors to ensure that they are aware of what's going on with the property. They have a closer connection to what the project is going through, and that there could also be shared spaces where residences and neighbors could participate and be part of the community and support that property. If we didn't have that attached to the properties, we would be relying on things like municipal compliance, so property standards, or potentially some of our apartment blitzes that we do to go and ensure that there's a level of quality within the buildings, or potentially police actions. So this actually, by providing that capital funding, attaching that highly supportive housing plan to the contribution agreement, it puts the city it gives us a little bit more say in how that building can be operated for the 25 years that we're committed to.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. Councillor.
Thank you, and through you, another question regarding the need to take names from our wait list. So given the issues that we had at 122 Baseline, which was affordable housing coming off of our wait list, and seeing that these projects are going to be going through without coming to council, they're going to be using the wait list. Can you just tell us again what was learned and what has changed such that we will not have the issues that we were having within 122 Baseline?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. The work we do with our nonprofit providers, housing providers, and agencies like CMHA in our community, first and foremost build on the trust and the work that we do at SAD and other committees and other meetings that we have with organizations. So from there, we can determine what the community in that building is to look like with what the agency is looking to offer. And so in many cases, eligibility around the tenancy selection is where we start to understand what kind of population the agency is looking to support and serve at that space. From there, we take a blush of our wait list to see how many folks we have that might meet that initial eligibility application, and then work with the agency to provide various names so that they can complete the tenancy selection process.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. So is there any assurance that it will all be low acuity names that are coming off this wait list for affordable housing, and that it won't be some with, say, mid acuity where we've got agencies offering to do supports, that this is going to be low acuity and supportive will be something different?
Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. The acuity piece is really a point in time with an individual. So we recognize that life circumstances for an individual can impact how they handle situations in the moment, which can then impact their ability to live independently, need supports, function in society. And so we work again with the organization to determine that list. The individuals will get a site tour, they'll see the location. The agency will work within our community partners to understand the needs of that individual, and the eligibility, as I mentioned before, will be determined. If the agency is looking for low acuity individuals, like a number of the programs that and projects we work with, then yes, at that moment in time, that's what that individual will be identified at. But there is that ongoing work with the agency as part of the tenancy selection process to confirm and ensure that that individual meets the eligibility and is able to live independently in that building.
Thank you. I'll go to Mr. Felberg to add to that.
And just, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, and just to further add to that, the St. Vincent de Paul project that we are looking to approve within this, the agreement from April 28th, they specifically were concerned that they wouldn't have the ability to identify the community within their building and identify the tenants that they will be providing housing to. So it's absolutely one of those things that we're going to work with the community and that property owner to ensure that they have the right mix and the right community in order to have a successful building. We are as interested in their success. We want them to be viable. We want them to have a building that can stand up the test of time and be there for 25 plus years.
Thank you. Councillor, and I have Councillor Trusso next on the list.
Thank you, and through you. So I understand it's a point in time, but there is an assurance that this affordable housing contribution agreement is low acuity at the point that that tenants are put into that building, regardless of what the agency may want to do, that if it's done through affordable housing, we're talking about low acuity without supportive needs. Is that correct?
Thank you. Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Again, it's working with the proponent, the property owner on the community they want to build. It might be that there could be, most of the building is low acuity, but they may have some high acuity individuals if they feel they can provide the supports in that building. It's something that they get to decide as the proponent. We're just providing a capital contribution. We are not involved in their operations.
Thank you. Councilor.
Thank you, and through you, that just sounds awfully familiar to 122 baseline, because we had agencies there advocating for tenants who.
Sorry, Councilor, I have a point of order. Councilor, your microphone, please.
The question of what happened to on baseline, I think, needs a lot of discussion, but I think what's on the table right now is something very specific. And I just think we should stick to it, and it is very specific, and I think these questions have been answered. So I would just say, let's move on.
Thank you, Councilor. I've conferred with the clerk. You are correct. Councilor, if you could just keep it in scope with the motion on the floor.
Thank you. Well, 122 baseline was affordable housing. It was this, so that's what I'm talking about,
She's arguing the ruling you just made. She can move to overrule it if she wants, but let's not argue what you just ruled on.
The councilor is correct. Councilor, if you want to challenge the chair.
No, I'll just continue with my questions.
Okay, if you can, keep the questions with respect to the motion on the floor.
Okay, if we were to have an affordable housing project where agencies were advocating on behalf of mid and high acuity tenants, saying that they are able to provide the level of support that they need, is that something that is not prevented through this contribution agreement, such that we are in the hands of agencies and what they think, and then we're in long tenancy agreements where we can't get people out?
Thank you, Councilor. I will go to Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So depending on again, the community and the mix that they want to provide, it might be that we might push the proponent in the direction of providing a more highly supportive housing project. That highly supportive housing plan, though, that comes from the whole of community and has very specific rules on it. If we're just providing medical supports for individuals, or very similar to what Cross Cultural Learning Center is doing, which is providing supports for employment, language supports. They're also providing supports for seniors and creating space where they can have local community within the building. It really depends on the model and the mix that they want to establish in the house. So I can't say for sure what the agency would be doing, but there's an expectation of service that we would expect from them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. And just one correction from the chair. I said you could challenge the chair, but as a visiting member, you're unable to challenge the chair. So I was incorrect on that statement. So just to say that. You have 48 seconds. Please go ahead.
All right. So another.
I will stop your time. I'll give you 2 seconds. I can come back to you. Okay, Councilor Trussell.
Well, thank you. And through the chair, I was just going to say something very general, and that is I really appreciate what I perceive to be the care and sensitivity that the staff is showing to residents who are going to be living in these buildings, because people go through different stages of acuity, and we know it's indisputable that one of the things that helps people is being housed. And that's what we're trying to do here. Every one of these projects is about helping some of our residents who have very serious acuity problems lower their level of acuity. That's what we're doing. And I recognize the difficulties that the staff has in sorting through some of these issues. But I, as just one counselor speaking for myself, want to really say I appreciate the sensitivity that's being shown here, and I'm in favor of these projects going forward. And we've made certain delegation decisions. And I think that if it's the will of this council to undelegate some of those delegation decisions, that's something that could come, as a policy motion. I would rather do it that way rather than, anyway, I'll leave it at that. But thank you for your work on this.
Thank you, Counselor. I will just kind of look to Counselor Stevenson if you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. When we do the RFPQ or the RPQs and we vetted all these people, is that something that's taken into consideration when we're vetting these agencies? Because they're going to be running these properties for 25 years. And if we find, if for example, we had a project where we put people in a tenancy profile that wasn't working out, and we weren't running it as city housing, we could potentially have a 25-year safety concern. And so I'm wondering, are we vetting these pre-qualifications that way as well?
Thank you, Counselor. Go to staff, Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. We look for their experience and what their ability to provide a particular form of housing is, and that's one of the questions and one of the things that we identified in our RFPQ, and then we dive a little deeper into their operating performance once we get into the actual RFP itself, and we take a look at that, and then we continue to work with them in order to ensure that it's viable over the long term.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. Counselor, you have 6 seconds.
Can council get a list of those qualified in confidential?
Thank you, Counselor. I'll look to staff, Mr. Felberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I check with our procurement office to see, but I believe that they should be public because the RFPQ was a public document. It was a public procurement.
Thank you. You have 2 seconds left, so I guess you could take any more offline. Okay. Looking to members of the committee, visiting members. Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that's it for 4.2. That leaves us with 4.3, and this is the one where we have a delegation. I need a motion to receive the delegation, moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor Trusso. Mr. Astolfi, you ready? Okay, we have to vote on it first, so let's just vote on that, and then before that, I'll just kind of look at you, and if you can just state your name, who you're with, and then you got 5 minutes, I'll let you know when.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, you're ready to go. 5 minutes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm Dean Astolfi. I'm the VP of Supportive Housing and Program Development for CMHA Thames Valley. I was also the co-chair of the Highly Supportive Housing Table. I'm here to speak to our projects today and our approach, and hope that helps with your deliberations. At CMHA Thames Valley, we've been providing supportive housing for 50 years, and I'm proud to say we do a good job of it. Proof of this is the thousands of people who have attained their recovery goals with our supports. That is thousands of people that are not homeless and are doing well. Supportive housing programs must reflect the diversity of the people we serve, adapting our approaches, services, and environments to honor different demographics, lived experiences, abilities, and recovery journeys, recognizing that effective support meets people where they are while respecting their unique paths to stability and wellness. We need more supportive housing. We need more highly supportive housing. We need it now. We submitted our proposals for RFP with the city through affordable housing. We did that because we are providing affordable housing. All supportive housing must be affordable for those we serve. We need as much capital up front as possible to develop 115 units of affordable supportive housing. We also need operating dollars to provide skilled and caring staff. There's some confusion about the terms highly supportive housing and supportive housing. To clarify, highly supportive housing is supportive housing. It is a plan endorsed by City Council last year, April 2nd, that intends to provide a higher intensity of services and a plan that aims to have 24/7 resources available to those that need it. This is an important part. The extent to which you can provide these services is dependent on the revenue and funding that you receive. We hope that funders will give us more funding for staffing. However, hope is not a plan. So when CMHA Thames Valley planned Huron and Hill Street, we are planning to shift some existing operating resources to these projects when they open. We will continue to seek funding resources to ensure we provide more supports to those clients that need them most. It should be known, too, that CMHA Thames Valley is quarterly funded by the province, which is different than some other agencies that might rely on only municipal funds. Not everyone that is housing deprived is considered high acuity. Not everyone that is homeless struggles with addictions. For those that do struggle with addictions, harm reduction can be a starting point on an individual's journey to recovery. Research shows that when people aren't fighting for daily survival and feel genuinely accepted, they become more receptive to positive changes, making harm reduction not the opposite of recovery, but often its essential first chapter. Acuity is fluid, and if we are doing what we intend to do, when those moving through our system of supports like hubs and supportive housing, they will have lower acuity over time. In that way, highly supportive housing can have mixed acuity, which makes for a community that is moving in a positive direction. In our community, the term highly supportive housing is newer, and as I've already said, supportive housing is not. We know that it is the better investment compared to some more costly alternatives, which include emergency services, hospitalizations in jail. For every $10 invested in supportive housing, you save $22 elsewhere in your system. Our community needs solutions, and our developments are part of that solution. I cannot understand why anyone would get in the way of good when there is so much need out there. Our community needs us, and we need the support of our city. And gratefully, for the most part, we have that support. We hope that council supports us too. And that part of the plan is dependent on you. Thank you for listening, and I'm open to trying to answer any questions you might have about our projects.
Thank you, Mr. Astolfi. Okay, for that, I would, just a second. Okay, I need to look to committee for a motion. Seconded case, moved by Councilor McAllister, seconded by Councilor Trusso. Okay.
Clarity,
And
that's the motion that's in
the staff recommendation, yeah, and that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking for a speakers list. Councilor McAllister, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'll start things off. I'm sure some of my colleagues will have comments as well. I just want to speak from my own experience. I've had very good discussions with Mr. Astolfi in the past. I've always been impressed with CMHA and what they've been able to produce in the 50 years, as the speaker mentioned. They've got a proven track record in terms of the services they can provide, and it is absolutely an area where we need to be investing. Highly supportive housing, I have the Thompson location, which is often referenced, and I mean, it's never easy. I've indicated this in previous committees, council, but I think because it is a challenging environment, we need organizations like this to take the lead. They've got the staff, the ability to make these things work. And I've seen that in the past, and I'm sure moving forward with these projects, they'll put as much care and attention as they have in all their other projects. So I will leave my comments there for now. I might respond if colleagues have other things, but I am supportive of this, and I want to see this move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I have Councilor Pribble, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Astolfi. You mentioned that the services are to the extent of services depend on the funding. And you do have, let's say, you receive the funding for the capital expenditure, and then you, at the same time, you might not know the exact amount for the services for the operations. And let's say you are hoping, as you said, we shouldn't hope, but let's say you're hoping that the funding you receive will be high enough for highly supportive housing, which would match potentially with the high acuity individuals. If the funding doesn't come through in such amounts that would support highly supportive housing, do you revisit the list of the individuals that will be housed there and potentially decrease it from high acuity to low or medium acuity? And if I didn't ask specific questions, if you can please add on anything you wish, so it would clarify it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Just a second, Mr. Astolfi.
Go ahead.
The council did ask a question. I know I did tell you that this may come up. It's not in order to ask questions of the delegate. However, this committee has in the past requested that. So before I move forward, I just want to look at committee. If there's any objections to have Mr. Astolfi answer Councilor Pribble's question, please answer. Just raise your hand. Okay, no objections. Please go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. So I think the thing to understand is that high acuity is entirely different than highly supportive, and I'll explain that. You can have a project that can serve high acuity. You can have a project that's highly supportive, but you can have mixed acuity in that building. You can scale up and down. As I said, acuity is fluid. We have funding associated with us that we can serve high acuity. We are going to do mixed acuity. We find that's the best approach. The higher the density of a building, the more likely that you should go with a mixed acuity model. When you think about at our one project, 82 units, and in the highly supportive housing plan, which I helped my colleagues write together, it's a 1-to-10 ratio of staff to clients. You can imagine if you have 82 units of all folks that are experiencing high acuity, how many staff you would actually have to have on site and how many resources you would have to have those staff. So it is a fluid model. Acuity is fluid, so are our supports. Our intent is to ensure that we have the ability to serve high acuity, and our plan is to have mixed acuity, again, because not everybody is going to remain at a level of high acuity, even if they come in that way. We know that from the work that we already do. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Councilor.
It certainly did, and thank you very much. I do have one follow-up, though. Did you have or did you experience, and if you have not, what would be your process in the past in such environment, such building, and let's say that the individuals, as we say, they move from various levels of acuity. If it would be, unfortunately, from low to the higher, and then your servicing funds wouldn't be sufficient enough to have a safe environment in that building, how would you deal with that?
We're always planning for, we plan for maximum standards, but we also plan for minimum standards. And the way that we go about that is, in all of our planning, we would always think about, okay, what is worst case scenario here? And we would always make sure we have enough resources on hand for the changes within the building. We're very adept at providing crisis services. We have a 24-hour crisis center. Incidentally enough, that's right beside Huron Street, the 24-hour crisis center. So we have built-in resources so that even what we don't contain in the building proper is right next door to us, in the case of Huron Street. And we have over 700 staff. We have 50-plus programs. It's not just supportive housing that we do. We have a lot of other resources available to us.
Thank you. Councilor.
Mr. Astolfi, thank you very much for answering both questions, and thank you again for your services to our community.
Thank you. Members of committee. Anybody? Visiting members. Councilor Stevens.
Thank you. And through you, I do have a couple of questions for Mr. Astolfi. So I voted no to the highly supportive housing plan back in April of 2024. And the reason that I did that was because of the focus on the harm reduction model and the allowing of people to use illegal drugs in their units. Now, in the same week as we approved that, the province came out saying they were moving in the direction of the Alberta recovery model rather than the Vancouver model that London had chosen. So I'm just wondering, is there any concern about locking yourself into the London highly supportive housing plan, that it might limit your access to provincial funding?
Not at all. As you know, we are the recipients and the lead for the Heart Hub project, which is an abstinence-based project. We have abstinence-based programs within our midst right now. We have harm reduction programs as well. So I'm not concerned about it at all. We have a great relationship with our provincial funders. And our intent, and as I said in my time that I was allowed, is that harm reduction isn't in opposition to recovery. It's simply one chapter of it.
Counselor.
Thank you. And how will you protect those who aren't, who are lower acuity and in recovery? How do you protect them from the negative influences of the high acuity, severe addiction that might be in the building?
I find, protection, that's a difficult term for me to wrap my head around. These are adults we're dealing with. These are folks that of our intelligence and want to be in that community. It's all voluntary when people come to us. They will choose to be there. We will describe what the program is, what exists in the building, and they will make choices based on that to be with us or not. Our supports are such that we handle these issues every day in all of our housing that we've been doing for 50 years. And there are things in play that I couldn't get into explaining today. I have people that are much smarter than me that provide direct service and are our managers and our programs that really know what they're doing. They're evidence-based. They base themselves on best practices. So that already exists for us, how to manage those situations that you're speaking of.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you. And through you, maybe I'm the one that everybody calls with the problems, but I did hear a lot of very disturbing concerns expressed regarding the 446 King Street building. Is there anything you can tell me about maybe lessons learned there or how that's not going to be at the Huron Street?
Before you answer that, that is not specifically to the motion at hand. So you can feel free to generally answer how you would like or not answer at all.
I think it's fair to ask how 446 King Street plays, and it is one of our projects. It does illustrate something very important to me. It illustrates why our plan works. 446 King Street was something that was failing before we took it over. It is now thriving. We had an open house last week. We have nothing but accolades and compliments from our neighbors since we took over that project. So that is a success story, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Counselor.
Thank you. It's no longer highly supportive, though. Is that correct?
It's absolutely highly supportive. We have 24/7 supports there.
Counselor.
Okay, well, that is good to hear because what I heard was pretty terrible. And the recognition that it was failing, like, thank you for turning that around.
I don't know if I subscribe to the same rules that council does, but that's very insulting.
Oh.
Well, I certainly didn't mean that.
Just some of the language we use here must be respectful to all members of our community, proponents, counselors, staff. I would just say that generally to everybody. Counselor, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, well, not like I said, certainly did not mean that to be insulting. You acknowledged it was failing, and that's what I had heard as well. The other thing is, when you talked about the highly supportive housing and you were here talking about it, you said that there were occupancy agreements rather than tenancy agreements. Would that be true here as well?
Yes, we've decided in course of our history, we used to have tenancy agreements. We now have all occupancy agreements, and as we take on new projects, they will be occupancy agreements as well.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. And can you just remind us again the difference there?
Yeah, an occupancy agreement has an exception under the RTA for supportive housing in particular, where there's an agreement between the tenant that they're going to receive supports, and there's an agreement of the provider that they're going to provide supports, which is entirely different than a regular tenancy. A regular tenancy is governed by the Residential Tenancies Act, and you would go to tribunal to resolve things. Within supportive housing, we're trying to keep people housed as best we can, and we'll mediate situations with our tenants so that they can stay housed.
Okay, thank you. I think that does bring a lot of reassurance to the neighborhood. The other thing is, in here, there's talk of children, and I just wondered, I guess I just do worry about women and children in these buildings, and so is there anything you can say to that in terms of it explicitly says in here that there's children in custody and overnight stays for children. So any comments on that?
Yeah, to be clear, it says there's a possibility of that. Each project is unique. It is possible for us to accommodate that. We have done that in other projects before. We certainly want to make sure that families are whole. We know that families are support to individuals. They're a reason for people to recover. So there might be instances of family or children. I would say generally, though, in our supportive housing projects, we don't have a lot of families and children in them. There are plenty of other service providers that specialize in that.
Thank you. Counselor.
Thank you. And could you just share a little bit about how it would work in terms of community engagement? Because one of the concerns when it isn't recovery-based and we've got people in addiction is that oftentimes, at least what I am told, is that they don't have enough income to survive within their addiction, and so they end up having to steal or sell their bodies or sell drugs or do something. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything that you can share with us that again would help reassure the neighborhood that this wouldn't be have very negative consequences on the public safety in the surrounding neighborhood?
Yeah, I can offer explanation and reiterate that not everybody in supportive housing struggles with addictions. So if not everybody in that building is struggling with addictions, then that as a whole isn't the issue for the neighborhood. I don't know how to answer the rest of your question. I think we do a good job to support the individuals that are there. We do a good job with community engagement. I would say that community engagement is less about community engagement at a plan or a purchase of land and more of community engagement when we're in a neighborhood, when we're about to set up, when we're about to open our doors. And it's that continued engagement that really helps us out. We've had plenty of instances in our history where we've improved a neighborhood, where people have been fearful before we came in and thankful that we're there years later.
Thank you. Counselor. Thank you, Counselor. Looking for any other speakers, comments? Okay. Mr. Astolfi, you are a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate you coming and speaking today and answering our questions. So thank you very much. I'm sure you will hear from us again, and thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Actually, just a second. Okay, sorry, I just had to confer with the clerk to confirm that we did have a motion on the floor. We do, so we can continue on if anybody else for committee has any comments or questions, visiting members as well. Councillor, you have 57 seconds, go ahead.
Thanks. This is a question for staff. We have the highly supportive housing program effective February 11th, 2025 that reads very similar to what we have here. And so can I just ask again, why this program wasn't utilized rather than the way it's coming to us right now?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Felberg.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So what you have before you is an RFP award. What the February 11th report refers to and what that agreement and that program is a community improvement plan. So two very different tools. One is very restricted under our procurement policy. The other one allows us to incubate and work with organizations in order to bring forward new projects.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. And are they able to tap into both of these?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So if you mean tap in, can they respond to an RFP? Absolutely. Anybody can respond to an RFP. If they meet the qualifications and they're eligible for an award, then we would offer them an award. Any organization that comes in will submit a series of documents and a bunch of information for us to evaluate in order to determine if they're eligible for our CIP and be eligible for funding that $45,000 per unit that we offer.
Thank you, Mr. Felberg. Councillor, you have 36 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. And yet that same evaluation of the program and operations and everything doesn't happen for the RFP?
Mr. Felberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair, not sure what you mean. Absolutely, it's part of the RFP evaluation.
Thank you. Councillor.
And just to be clear, if the project was to come through this highly supportive CIP program, it would not come before council. That's something that's evaluated and distributed like the other programs. We've delegated authority there.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Thank you. Councilor, you got 13 seconds. Go ahead.
Knowing that this is capital money that we're giving and we don't oversee the operations, if there were to be operational issues and they have a 25-year commitment, do we have any recourse as a city to address some safety issues that might come up?
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Alberg.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple of the things, and I want to highlight, they're in the report attached to item 4.3. So if the proponent were to, say, lose its operational funding at some point during that 25 years, there is a process embedded within the agreement for them to exit from that highly supportive housing. This is actually one of those learnings from 122 baseline to make sure that it's very clear, very black and white on how we approach that. So one of the things that they would provide to us would be a detailed operating pro forma that would identify how the transition from highly supportive to affordable would go. They would also highlight the services that they are no longer providing at the building. They would also demonstrate a consideration for an offer to find another service provider that could provide the service. So if, say, for example, CMHA were not able to provide that service, but an organization like Indwell is available and has capacity to do that, some ability to assign that agreement and assign that project to them has to be addressed as well. And then they also have to demonstrate to us that they have been unsuccessful in finding other operational funding from other levels of government or independent sources.
Thank you, Mr. Falberg. Councilor, you've exhausted your time. I'm going to look to anybody else. Nope. Okay, let's call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that's item 4.3. So we have item 4.4. I am going to go to staff before we have any potential discussion. So I'm going to go to Mr. Dickens for this item.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, and appreciate the committee's indulgence on this. Through further conversation and at the recommendation from Legal Services, we'd actually like to withdraw this report from the added caps agenda item. We, on May 6th, a special DHCOM, Dearness Home Committee of Management meeting was held. That is where the LSAW that you see before you here, that's where the LSAW compliance was approved by DHCOM, and this report is not required for any further council direction or support.
Thank you, Mr. Dickens. So there is no motion required for that. I guess I'll just look to committee if anybody objects to withdrawing this item. None? Okay. It's been withdrawn. To that effect, I think that leaves us, I think that's it for items for direction. It is. So next is deferred matters, additional business. I have none. So that leaves us with adjournment. So motion to adjourn, moved by Trosso, seconded by Cuddy, or Councilor Cuddy, Councilor Trosso, my apologies. Hand vote, all in favor to adjourn? All those opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.